The text message flashed on Claire's phone screen, momentarily interrupting the quiet hum of her upscale boutique. "I'm leaving you and moving to Miami with my 20-year-old girlfriend. I've already emptied our joint account, haha." The casual cruelty of those words, delivered amidst assisting a customer with a delicate silk scarf, was staggering. Yet Claire's hands remained steady, her voice even as she offered Mrs. Peterson a beautifully wrapped purchase. The only flicker of the emotional earthquake was a subtle tightening around her eyes. Once the door chimed shut behind her departing customer, Claire finally allowed herself a measured response. Good luck. At 38, Claire had just received the most brutal of farewells from Mark, her husband of 12 years. While he likely envisioned her in tears, devastated by his betrayal, Claire was calmly locking up her shop for the day, a storm of quiet resolve brewing within. This is Claire's story, a testament to resilience and the unexpected turns life can take. If you're intrigued by how Claire navigates this shocking betrayal and reclaims her life, make sure to subscribe to Life Stories for the next chapter of this compelling journey. The shock of Mark's text, while jarring, wasn't entirely unexpected for Claire. Looking back, the warning signs had been subtly accumulating for months, like cracks in a seemingly solid foundation. The late nights at the office, for instance, had become increasingly frequent, yet the corresponding increases in their joint bank account never materialized. It was a small discrepancy at first, easily dismissed, but the pattern persisted, a nagging inconsistency that Claire couldn't quite shake. Then came the sudden and unexplained password changes on Mark's phone, a device that had once been an open book between them. Now it was guarded, held face down on tables, its screen quickly flicking off whenever Claire entered the room. More overtly, Mark had embarked on a mission to recapture his youth. The gym, once a sporadic endeavor, became a near-daily pilgrimage. His wardrobe underwent a drastic overhaul, filled with clothes that seemed more suited to someone half his age. Claire watched this transformation with a growing unease, a sense that he was distancing himself, chasing an illusion that didn't include her. 3 months prior to the fateful text, a concrete piece of the puzzle had fallen into place. While tidying up, Claire had discovered a receipt tucked away in the pocket of Mark's jacket, a bill for an expensive dinner for two at a trendy downtown restaurant. The date on the receipt was a Tuesday, a night Mark had explicitly told her he was working late on a crucial project. The discovery had sent a cold wave of certainty through her. It wasn't just a feeling anymore. There was tangible proof of deception. That very evening, a seed of self-preservation took root. Claire, without mentioning it to Mark, opened a separate bank account at a different financial institution. It was a quiet, decisive act, a subconscious preparation for an uncertain future. A week later, Mark casually mentioned wanting to simplify things by combining their finances entirely. Claire had agreed with a cheerful nonchalance that belied the knot of anxiety in her stomach, all the while quietly transferring her personal savings to her newly established account. The joint account, the one Mark had so gleefully emptied, had become a carefully managed facade. Over the preceding 2 months, Claire had ensured it contained just enough funds to mirror their usual spending habits, enough to prevent raising any suspicion about her own financial moves. The bulk of their savings, along with meticulous records of every questionable transaction Mark had made over the past year, the unexplained ATM withdrawals, the vague online purchases, were safely tucked away. Claire had become a silent observer, documenting the unraveling of their marriage with the precision of an accountant. Then, another text message from Mark buzzed through her carefully constructed calm. "Don't bother begging. Melissa and I leave tomorrow. I'll send for my things later." Melissa! The name confirmed Claire's suspicions. Melissa, the new receptionist at Mark's office. Claire remembered meeting her briefly at the company Christmas party. Melissa's laughter had been a little too loud, her touch on Mark's arm a little too lingering for a casual acquaintance. Young, naive, likely flattered by the attention of a man her father's age, a classic, predictable scenario. Claire didn't dignify his text with a response. Instead, her fingers swiftly dialed the number of her lawyer, the one she had discreetly consulted 2 months prior. the day after finding the exorbitant hotel charges on their joint credit card statement. "It's time," she stated simply, her voice firm. "He just made his move." "The papers are ready," her lawyer replied, her tone efficient and understanding. "I'll file them first thing tomorrow. Do you want me to have him served in Miami?" "No rush," Claire responded, a hint of a strategic smile playing on her lips. "Let him think he's won first." Another text from Mark illuminated his delusion. "I know this must be hard for you. You're not getting any younger after all. At least you have your little shop to keep you busy." My little shop. The successful boutique Claire had painstakingly built from the ground up, the business that consistently generated more income than Mark's middle management position. And crucially, the profits of which Claire had always kept separate, a point of contention that Mark had often dismissed as unnecessary. A wave of grim satisfaction washed over Claire as she thought of the certified letters that would soon be winging their way to Miami. Let him savor his fleeting moment of triumph. That evening, Claire spent in their house, her house, inherited from her grandmother and kept solely in her name, despite Mark's repeated casual suggestions over the years to add his name to the deed. Another instinct that had thankfully proven correct. As she gathered the necessary paperwork for her lawyer, her fingers brushed against their wedding album. Mark looked so different then, before the midlife crisis had warped him into a caricature of his former self. These days, he favored shirts stretched taut over his softening middle, desperately trying to connect with the younger colleagues at his office, his attempts at slang sounding utterly ridiculous coming from a man of 45. Her phone continued to buzz with Mark's increasingly condescending pronouncements. "I've been planning this for months. Melissa understands me in ways you never could. You'll be fine. Maybe you'll find someone more your own age." He even claimed to have informed his family, stating they agreed that they had simply grown apart, absolving himself of any real responsibility. Claire diligently screenshotted each message, adding them to her growing digital evidence folder. Let him dig his hole deeper. Her lawyer would undoubtedly appreciate his casual admission of premeditation and his boastful announcement about emptying their account. The final text of the night caught Claire's attention. "BTW, I used the joint card to book our flights and hotel. Consider it my parting gift. LOL." Perfect. With a newfound sense of purpose, Claire dialed the credit card company. "Mrs. Harrison speaking," she began, her voice calm and resolute. "I need to report fraudulent charges and cancel a card immediately." "Certainly, ma'am. Can you identify the charges?" the credit card representative inquired, her tone professional. "2 first-class tickets to Miami booked today and hotel charges at the Royal Palm," Claire stated clearly. "And I'll need to remove my husband, Mark Harrison, as an authorized user." "Do you have documentation of the fraud?" "Yes," Claire confirmed. "Text messages from my husband admitting he used our joint card to book travel with his girlfriend after emptying our bank account. I'll be happy to forward them." A subtle shift in the representative's voice hinted at a touch of satisfaction. "Understood, Mrs. Harrison. I've canceled the card and will invalidate those charges immediately." The next morning, as Claire prepared to open her boutique, a sense of quiet anticipation filled her. Mark and his young companion, Melissa, would soon arrive at the airport, only to discover their grand escape had been effectively grounded. Their first-class tickets would be worthless, their luxurious hotel reservation non-existent, all thanks to Mark's own hubris and Claire's swift action. Just then, her phone buzzed again. Another text from Mark. "Don't worry about the house. I'll let you stay there until you find something smaller." Claire actually laughed out loud at that one. Did he truly believe he had any say in who lived in her grandmother's house? Had his ego inflated to such proportions that he'd completely erased the fact that her name was the only one on the deed? The audacity was almost comical. Another buzz. "And I know the shop means a lot to you. We can work out a fair payment for your half." My half of my business? The business she had conceived, funded, and built through years of dedication, often while Mark complained about her long hours, dismissing her passion as a mere hobby. Claire poured herself a glass of the good Sauvignon Blanc she'd been saving for a special occasion, Today certainly qualified. Mark was about to receive a crash course in property law and the definition of separate assets. Friday, as always, was the busiest day at the boutique. The arrival of a new shipment of designer handbags provided a welcome distraction. Life, Claire realized, had a way of continuing, even when your husband ran off with a receptionist young enough to be his daughter. The familiar rhythm of unpacking, arranging displays, and assisting customers was grounding. Around noon, her phone rang. It was Mark's mother, Barbara. "Claire, dear," she began, her tone surprisingly accusatory. "Mark told us everything about how controlling you've been, how you drove him away. He says you're being vindictive now, causing problems with his travel plans." Claire calmly put Barbara on speakerphone while she meticulously arranged a window display. "Did he mention emptying our joint account, Barbara? Or charging first-class tickets for him and his girlfriend on our credit card?" A moment of silence hung in the air. Then, Barbara offered a weak defense. "Well, he said you left him no choice, that you'd been cold and distant." "Barbara," Claire said, her voice steady, "I have his texts. Would you like me to read them to you? The one where he bragged about taking our money? Or perhaps the one where he mocked my age?" Another pause. "He did seem a bit cruel," Barbara conceded, her tone shifting slightly. "I told him that text message was inappropriate. I appreciate the call, Barbara. I've always liked you. But I think it's best if we end this conversation now. My lawyer has advised minimal contact with Mark's family during the proceedings. Proceedings already," Claire noted internally, a sense of the swiftness of her actions sinking in. By late afternoon, the family grapevine was in full swing. Mutual friends, with thinly veiled curiosity, relayed that Mark and Melissa were reportedly stuck at a budget motel near the airport, their Miami dreams temporarily grounded. Apparently, Mark's personal credit cards, another red flag Claire had noted over the past year, had been maxed out for months. Just as the boutique was closing, Claire's lawyer called with an update. "The emergency hearing is scheduled for Monday. Given his admission of emptying the joint account and the documented credit card fraud, we're in a very strong position to freeze all remaining assets." "Has he been served yet?" Claire asked. "Not yet, but he'll be getting the papers at his new motel address. Speaking of which," her lawyer continued, a hint of amusement in her voice, "his girlfriend's social media is providing excellent evidence. She's been posting about their adventure all day, including some rather choice comments about you." Claire smiled, thinking of her own meticulously curated documentation, a year's worth of suspicious charges, hotel receipts, and damning text messages that clearly demonstrated premeditation. Mark had been so consumed with his grand escape that he'd never considered she might be watching, waiting, and preparing. Her phone buzzed one last time that day. Another text from Mark, laced with a desperate bravado. "You think you're so smart, but I made copies of all the boutique's financial records. Half that business is mine." Without a word, Claire forwarded the text to her lawyer, adding it to the ever-growing file of Mark's missteps. Let him learn the hard way about separate assets and the legal definition of business ownership. Sometimes, Claire mused, the most satisfying form of retribution was simply being thoroughly prepared. Monday arrived, and the emergency hearing unfolded exactly as Claire had hoped. Mark appeared in his new, ill-fitting young wardrobe, designer jeans straining at his waist, and a blazer that screamed midlife crisis. Melissa, looking conspicuously youthful under the harsh courthouse lighting, waited outside, a visible symbol of Mark's folly. Claire's lawyer presented their evidence methodically. Mark's gleeful text message about emptying their joint account hung in the air, followed by the undeniable documentation of credit card fraud and the detailed history of his hidden expenses, each piece carefully collected over months of Claire's quiet observation. "Your Honor," Mark's hastily hired lawyer began, attempting a weak defense, "my client admits to some rash decisions, made in the heat of the moment, but Mrs. Harrison's actions have been vindictive and calculating." "Calculating?" Claire's lawyer countered, her tone sharp and incredulous. "You mean prudent?" My client protected her separate assets and maintained detailed records of her husband's suspicious behavior. That's not vindictive. That's smart business. The judge, after reviewing Claire's meticulously organized documentation, the separate property deed to the house, the boutique's incorporation papers solely in her name, the clear separation of business and personal finances that Mark had so often complained about, addressed Mark directly. Mr. Harrison, you admitted via text message to deliberately emptying a joint account and using shared credit cards to fund a trip with your girlfriend. Do you deny this? Mark shifted uncomfortably in his seat. I was just trying to make a clean break. The judge raised a skeptical eyebrow. By committing financial fraud? And now you're claiming rights to property that documentation clearly shows is separate from marital assets? Your Honor, Mark's lawyer tried again, grasping at straws. The business grew during their marriage. My client contributed to its growth through moral support. Claire's lawyer didn't miss a beat. Moral support? She interjected, a hint of derision in her voice. Like these text messages belittling Mrs. Harrison's business as a little shop? Or these social media posts calling it her hobby? The judge had clearly seen enough. The court finds sufficient evidence of financial misconduct, he announced, his voice firm. All shared assets are frozen pending final dissolution. Mr. Harrison is ordered to return any funds removed from joint accounts within 24 hours. But that money's gone, Mark protested, his voice rising in panic. We spent it on. Then I suggest you find a way to replace it, the judge cut him off, his gaze unwavering. And Mr. Harrison, the court takes a very dim view of using shared credit cards to fund adventures with a paramour. Outside the courthouse, Claire overheard Melissa questioning Mark about their now-defunct Miami plans. His mumbled response was lost in the confident click of Claire's heels as she walked across the marble floor, heading back to the business he had never truly understood or respected. The following weeks brought a series of increasingly desperate moves from Mark. He tried claiming the boutique had been his idea, vaguely recalling investing in its early days. He even audaciously suggested he had been her silent business partner all along. These claims were swiftly and easily disproven by Claire's meticulous records, which documented every penny invested and earned, all by her. He's getting desperate, her lawyer observed during one call. His girlfriend's social media shows they're staying at her studio apartment now. Apparently, living on a receptionist's salary isn't quite the glamorous escape he imagined. Mark's family, initially swayed by his victim narrative, began to reach out, their tone markedly different from their initial accusations. We had no idea, his sister Amanda admitted during an unexpected visit to the boutique. He played the victim so well, but watching how he handled everything afterward, I'm ashamed we ever believed him. His mother called again, this time in tears. The things he said about your age, about replacing you with someone younger. I raised him better than that. I thought I did anyway. Claire let their calls go to voicemail. Their belated support, while perhaps well-intentioned, felt like rats deserting a sinking ship. Ironically, the local gossip surrounding Claire's situation had a positive impact on her business. Women, hearing her story, came to the boutique specifically to show their support, often leaving with far more than they had intended to buy. My ex tried something similar, one customer confided, while purchasing a designer handbag. Thought he'd take everything in the divorce. Men like that never expect us to be smarter than them. Her phone still occasionally buzzed with texts from Mark, his tone oscillating between anger and pathetic manipulation. You've ruined everything. I never meant to hurt you. You'll regret being so vindictive. Can't we work something out? That business would be nothing without my support. Claire forwarded each message to her lawyer without a response, allowing him to continue digging his own grave. Through the grapevine, Claire heard that Melissa was having second thoughts. Sharing her small studio apartment with a middle-aged man who couldn't afford his own place apparently wasn't the romantic adventure she had envisioned. The age gap that had seemed exciting during clandestine hotel meetings felt different under the harsh reality of shared living expenses and Mark's constant complaints. Melissa's social media posts hinted at toxic relationships and learning from mistakes. Yesterday, her lawyer had mentioned during an update call that Melissa had removed her relationship status online. This morning, Claire almost felt a pang of sympathy for Mark. Almost. But then she remembered his callous ha-ha after informing her he'd emptied their account, the casual cruelty of his comments about her age, the arrogant assumption that she would be helpless without him. Instead of pity, Claire felt something else. Pride. Pride in her foresight, in her quiet strength, and in her ability to protect herself while he so profoundly underestimated her. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, Claire stood in the doorway of her second boutique location, a sense of quiet triumph washing over her. The irony wasn't lost on her. While Mark likely struggled to rebuild his life in a cramped studio apartment, the little shop he had so casually dismissed was flourishing. She had hired 3 new employees, their energy injecting a fresh vibrancy into the business, and the online store she had cautiously launched was steadily gaining traction nationwide. News of Mark's post-divorce existence trickled back through their dwindling circle of mutual acquaintances. His attempts at navigating the dating scene had been largely unsuccessful. Women his age, it seemed, weren't particularly interested in a middle-aged man living with his parents, and younger women, having caught wind of his history through office gossip, steered clear. Melissa, apparently, had shared screenshots of his increasingly desperate attempts to win her back after she had moved on. His career had also taken a nosedive. The company's HR department, prompted by the whispers surrounding his relationship with a subordinate, had launched a formal investigation, resulting in a formal reprimand. The promotion he had been so confident of receiving went to someone else, someone without a documented history of inappropriate workplace relationships. In a final, misguided attempt to salvage his pride, he reportedly tried to claim age discrimination. Amanda told me during an unexpected visit to the boutique, Claire's lawyer had relayed, a hint of amusement in her voice, that HR simply added that complaint to his file. Claire had been surprised to see Amanda in her store. Her presence spoke volumes about the extent to which Mark had alienated his own family. "I know we didn't support you at first," Amanda had confessed, her fingers tracing the delicate weave of a silk scarf. "He played the victim so convincingly. But watching how he handled everything, how he acted afterward, I'm ashamed we ever believed him." Meanwhile, Mark's continued attempts to challenge the divorce settlement were consistently shut down. Each petition, each desperate claim of unfair distribution was dismissed by the judge, the evidence of his own actions proving to be an insurmountable obstacle. He actually tried arguing that his text about emptying the account was just a joke, Claire's lawyer had recounted, laughing. The judge asked if ha-ha somehow made theft less illegal. The boutique's burgeoning success brought unexpected validation. Local business magazines, drawn to Claire's compelling story, wanted to feature her, not as a scorned wife, but as a savvy businesswoman who had fiercely protected her interests. Young entrepreneurs, inspired by her resilience, sought her advice on the crucial importance of keeping business and personal finances separate. "The best protection is preparation," Claire would often advise, recalling her own foresight. "And always trust your instincts." She remembered one young woman in particular whose wide-eyed earnestness reminded her uncomfortably of Melissa. Mark's mother, Barbara, called occasionally, usually after some new self-inflicted crisis. He had tried online gambling, hoping for a quick fix to his mounting financial problems. He had briefly become involved in a pyramid scheme that promised unrealistic returns. Each attempt to claw his way back to his former lifestyle only seemed to dig him deeper into a hole of his own making. "I don't know where we went wrong with him," Barbara sighed during one call. "His father and I offered to help him get back on his feet if he'd just take responsibility for his actions, but he's still blaming everyone else. You, Melissa, his company, the judge." Claire listened politely, offering non-committal responses, but maintained a firm emotional distance. Their family drama was no longer her concern. Her own life had moved forward, filled with plans for a third boutique location and the exciting possibility of expanding into luxury accessories. The only tangible reminder of Mark's destructive impact on her life was a framed screenshot hanging in her office, his final arrogant text before she had finally blocked his number. Have fun with your little shop. At least it'll keep you busy in your old age. Below it sat her latest business award, a gleaming testament to the fact that sometimes the most potent form of revenge was simply succeeding on your own terms. 1 year after the divorce, Claire hosted a grand opening for her third boutique. The event drew local media, and the narrative they were eager to tell wasn't one of a failed marriage, but of a successful businesswoman expanding her brand. Mark's betrayal had become a mere footnote in her rapidly evolving success story. During the bustling event, Melissa unexpectedly walked in. She looked younger than ever, or perhaps Claire simply felt that much stronger in comparison. Melissa shifted uncomfortably, clutching her purse like a shield. I owe you an apology, she said quietly, her gaze lowered. I believed everything he told me about how you were cold, controlling, how you didn't support his dreams. Then I watched him try the same manipulation tactics on me when things got tough. Claire continued arranging a display of designer sunglasses, her movements deliberate. Those weren't his dreams, Melissa. They were escapes. There's a difference. I know that now. Melissa paused, then added, He tried to move in when you froze the accounts. Thought my studio apartment would be temporary. After 2 weeks of him complaining about the size of my closet and suggesting I take out a loan for a bigger place, I understood what you meant about the difference between dreams and escapes. Claire actually laughed, a genuine, unburdened sound. Let me guess. He had big plans but no way to fund them? Exactly. Everything was going to work out once his investments paid off, once he got that promotion, once his cryptocurrency definitely increased in value. Melissa shook her head, a hint of rueful amusement in her eyes. I'm dating someone my own age now. We have student loans and a small apartment, but at least we're building something real. After Melissa left, Claire's assistant manager whispered, Was that the girlfriend? No, Claire replied, a small smile playing on her lips. That was just another woman who learned the same lesson I did. Speaking of lessons, she gestured to a young couple admiring their designer handbags. Let's talk about your idea for expanding our accessories line. The boutique had become more than just a business. It was a symbol of independence, of resilience, of the quiet power of preparation. Young entrepreneurs often sought her advice, and she always emphasized the importance of protecting their assets. Mark's mother called one last time, not to discuss her son, but to thank Claire. You taught our family an important lesson, she said, her voice heavy with regret. About enabling bad behavior, about making excuses for cruelty. Mark's still living at home, still blaming everyone else for his problems, but we're not defending him anymore. That's your legacy to our family, Claire, showing us the difference between supporting someone and enabling them. Claire considered that legacy as she reviewed plans for a fourth location. Mark had intended to diminish her, to trade her in for a younger model, and take half of everything she had built. Instead, he had inadvertently pushed her to become even stronger, more successful. Her phone buzzed with a text from her lawyer. Mark filed another petition to revisit the settlement. Judge dismissed it immediately and ordered him to pay court costs. Thought you'd enjoy that. Claire smiled, picturing him in his childhood bedroom, still trying to rewrite an ending that had been firmly determined the moment he underestimated her. Sometimes the best revenge wasn't about getting even, it was about getting better. 2 years after Mark's cruel text message had shattered her marriage, Claire received an invitation to speak at a prominent women's business conference. The topic wasn't divorce or betrayal, it was about the strategies for building and safeguarding a successful business. Her personal story, once a cautionary tale, had evolved into a source of inspiration for many. During the Q&A session, a woman in the audience asked about the delicate balance of keeping business and personal finances separate, a concern that clearly resonated with many. My husband says I'm being paranoid, that marriage means sharing everything, the woman confessed. Claire offered a knowing smile. My ex-husband said the same thing, she replied, her voice steady and confident. Right up until he tried to claim half my business in our divorce. Trust your instincts. Protection isn't paranoia. By then, the boutique chain had expanded to 5 thriving locations, each outperforming the last. The little shop Mark had so condescendingly dismissed now employed 30 people and had been featured in several national business magazines, a testament to Claire's vision and unwavering dedication. Through mutual acquaintances, Claire heard that Mark had finally moved out of his parents' house, taking up residence in a small, somewhat dilapidated apartment above a garage. He had been forced to take a lower-paying job after his former company underwent restructuring and eliminated his position. His online dating profile still optimistically listed him as young at heart, though his profile picture was noticeably outdated. In a twist of irony, Melissa had become a regular customer at Claire's original boutique location. She had earned her business degree and started her own successful social media consulting company. "You inspired me," she had told Claire once, a genuine warmth in her eyes, showing how a woman can build something lasting instead of falling for empty promises. Claire still kept Mark's cruel text message framed in her office, not as a painful reminder of the past, but as a potent symbol of how far she had come. Below it hung a simple, elegant sign that read, "Success is the best revenge." On the 5-year anniversary of her original boutique's opening, Claire stood addressing her employees and loyal customers, a sense of profound gratitude filling her. The once small shop had been transformed into the flagship store of a burgeoning business empire. Mark's mother, Barbara, attended the celebration, though Claire hadn't extended a personal invitation. She waited until the crowd had thinned before approaching Claire, her designer dress, one she had purchased from Claire's store, impeccably smooth. "I saw Mark yesterday," she said quietly, a hint of sadness in her voice. "He was talking about his glory days, about the life he could have had. He still doesn't understand that he didn't lose everything in the divorce. He threw it away." Claire thought back to that dismissive text message, Mark's casual cruelty, his arrogant assumption that she would crumble without him, that she would beg and plead, somehow proving his low expectations of her correct. Instead, she had built something stronger, more resilient than before. Each new boutique location stood as a testament to what women could achieve when they refused to dim their light for insecure men. The young saleswoman Claire had hired the previous month, coincidentally also named Melissa, approached with a question about the new inventory system Claire had recently implemented. As Claire explained the intricacies of the process, she caught a glimpse of her reflection in the store window. She saw what Mark had failed to see 5 years ago. Not a woman growing older, but one growing wiser, stronger, and undeniably more successful. His cruel text message, intended to be the definitive ending of their story, had instead become a powerful beginning, not just for Claire, but for every woman who heard her story and realized she deserved far better than someone else's misguided midlife crisis. 5 years after a devastating text message, Claire's boutique empire thrived, a testament to her resilience and foresight. Her story became a powerful lesson in self-reliance, financial preparedness, and the strength found in adversity. Mark's selfish actions led to his own decline, a stark contrast to Claire's soaring success. Her journey inspired many, proving that betrayal can be a catalyst for remarkable growth. To hear more stories of strength and transformation, subscribe to Life Stories and